Welcome everybody. Stan, the annuity man here with my cohort Jimmy Direct on a Super Tuesday. Hopefully everyone went out and voted. But tonight we're going to vote annuities and everybody's going to win. And this is what's going to happen tonight. We're going to talk about MYGAs, multi-year guarantee annuities. The translation of that would be a fixed rate annuity. Everybody raise your hand out there if you've bought a CD. My goodness, I hope you didn't raise your hand because we're on a webinar and I can't see you. But even if you did raise your hand, that's okay, because if you bought a CD, you understand how a MYGA works. In essence, a MYGA is you give money to an insurance company, they hold on to it, they pay you interest for a contractual period of time, and then at the end of that contractual period of time, you can get all your money back. And with some of these products, you can peel off the interest, etc. There's a lot of people out there that say, hey, Stan, I'm not going to buy an annuity because I'll give money to the insurance company and then I'll lose control of it forever. Well, a MYGA just shot that down in flames. A MYGA is the annuity version of a CD. So what we're doing with MYGAs right now, and you can buy them as far out as 10 years, but we're really not allowing people, if they're listening to us, to go past 5, because the real value is 5 years and in, and right now the shortest duration of a MYGA is 3 years. So what we're going to do is kind of cover a couple of things on MYGA, some basics. We're going to open it up for questions. So if you have some questions, go ahead and type them in. We'll answer them on the fly. We can multitask. That would be called amphibious, right, Jim? No, it's not amphibious. That'd be ambidextrous. But anyway, so let's maybe go to the screen, Jim, and let's just kind of dive into the quote. I'm going to hand it over to you. This is Jimmy Direct. If I'm named Stan the Annuity Man, my partner has to be named something else that's not a real name, and his name is Jimmy Direct. Jimmy, take it from there, and let's dive into the MYGA world.
All right, the MYGAs are actually pretty simplistic in the format. Obviously, the format of all the sites, as you've seen throughout the webinars, is that they're very simple across the front with our top where we have the menu. Each one of them has the 4 letters explaining what each annuity is. So a MYGA is a multi-year guaranteed annuity. It's pretty simplistic. If you want to know more about the tutorial about it, you can listen to the webinar here, this video explains them in detail. And if you want to get a quote, obviously you just go to Get a Live Quote. And the MYGA quote page is a little bit different. The video will actually walk you through how to read the page. And the difference, obviously, with a MYGA quote is that you're just going to determine where, simple little parameters like where you live. If I live in Florida and if I want to put in $100,000, I just type it in. If it's qualified or non-qualified, I can put non-qualified. If I want to know the ratings of the companies by AM Best, obviously, that they're using, if I want them to be B double plus or better, any company, and if I have rate guarantee, I want it to be 3, 4, or 5 years, so I'm going to just put 5 years, and I'm going to put that I'm 60 years old, and I click search, and it's just going to bring back on the list the companies that are available based on that parameter. So you can see it. I have mine so that it displays 10. You can actually display 20 on a page. It'll just allow you to display as many as you want to see. I tried to keep it on one page, so I had it on 10 for this presentation, and then you can see how many pages there are right here. So it's not just the 10 that are showing on the screen. I can click on page 2 and 3. It'll take me through all of the various companies offering these products. You can see the first year rate, which if these are MYGAs, they would be the same rate throughout the entire period. If they're just a fixed annuity, then they're going to have a first year rate, and it will change. So as you can see on the first page, we got Sentinel Security Life, 3%, 3%, and 3% is the yield to surrender, the base rate, and the first year rate, so during the 5-year period. Free withdrawals of that product are 0% in year 1 and 2 and beyond. But it gives you all the details, so it's pretty simplistic as far as what you see on the screen is what you get. And so, Stan, there you go.
Jamie, let me add a couple things. Number one, this is a live feed. This is something we pay dearly for, and we're such philanthropists, we're giving it away. Actually, we just want you to be able to shop on your own terms, take a look at these products, and if you want to move forward with them, you can. But we really want you to understand the simplicity. A MYGA has no internal annual fees. Okay, with these products, they have surrender charges, like when you buy a 5-year CD, there's surrender charges to get out. Same thing with a 5-year MYGA. There's surrender charges, but there's no internal fee. When you buy a MYGA outside of an IRA, the interest compounds annually. Whereas with a CD, if you bought that outside of an IRA in a non-qualified account, you'd have to pay taxes on that interest every year. So we love CDs. Jim and I love CDs. We love money markets. We love CDs. But really the way we look at it is if your time horizon is 3 to 5 years, you need to look at a MYGA because MYGAs are going to outperform most CDs in that same time parameter. Don't believe me? Go to bankrate.com and do a comparison. Their 5-year, I think, CD right now is, what, 2.2, Jim? And right now the best 5-year MYGA is 3%. Now, one of the things we want to point out, Jim, go back to Florida and take out the premium number up here. You put in 100,000. If you could take out, just blank that out. Blank out non-qualified. You just leave non-qualified. You don't have, if you do want to do a quick search, just go in and do Florida, and you can take out your age and just do, and take out the age of the gentleman there, or lady, sorry, and hit search. So let's just do a general search. Okay, I want to see what the 5 years are paying. All right, now you're going to see Sentinel comes up at 3, but look underneath there. Midland National Life, A-plus rated company, their minimum premium to get the 3% is $200,000. Ouch, that's a lot, but to get the A-plus, that's their rule. But what I'm trying to point out is there's no uniformity with insurance companies. They all have different rules. You know, Jim covered the free withdrawal. You know, some of them, if you go down here in the free withdrawal, you'll see 0, 0. Sentinel is one of those that you just can't take any money out during the 5-year time period. But with Midland, the first year you can't take out any money, but the second, third, fourth, and fifth year you can peel off interest. The Salmon's product underneath, you can take out 5% of the total amount starting in year 2. The one below it, Athene, you can take out 10% first year and 10% following. So you really need to decide how flexible you want the product. And also there are some MYGAs out there that do allow, not many, but do allow you to add premium to, if you bought one, you say, I want to add more money, there's some time horizons that they will allow you to do that. Now, one of the things that Jimmy and I we say, hey, 5 years and in is where the value proposition is. What we're talking about is the yield curve. Jim, go up there and put in 10 years instead of 5. And what we're going to show you the reason that you wouldn't lock anything in past the 10. So if you'd run a 10 and you say, what's the highest? The highest out there right now is 3.35 on the 10. Well, why would you go 10 years? Why wouldn't you just go 5? That's where the value is at 3.0. Jim, go to 6 years. See what 6 years does, and it'll show what we're talking about. So, you know, people trying to lock your money up forever in an interest rate world, and no one knows where these interest rates are going. Some people say it's low. Some people say it's high. Jimmy and I say it's new. We're in a new interest rate environment. You can see the 6 years 2.9. So where's your value? Your value is at 5. And so what we're doing a lot of is we're buying, say, 3-year paper, 4-year paper, and 5-year paper, 3, 4, and 5-year MYGAs. So we have money coming due. Go to the 3-year, Jim. Just click 3. This is Florida. Okay, so the 3 years getting you 2%. Now everybody out there going, Stan, 2%, that's ridiculous. Hey, Sparky, the 10-year Treasury is less than 2%. There's no magic here, okay? If anybody on the planet is saying they can get you 4% guaranteed protecting your principal, they're probably lying to you, okay? You have to get your mind around the realities of where we are. And where we are is a 10-year Treasury at less than 2%, and it's still the highest 10-year Treasury equivalent in the country. So be realistic. What you're doing here, in essence, and I call this treading water, you're waiting for the markets to come to you. You don't want to lose any money. You don't want to pay any annual fees. Outside of an IRA, you don't want to pay any taxes on the interest. You want to keep your powder dry for another day, and you want to put it in a place where you know you got a contractual guarantee. Now, for all the indexed annuity gunslingers out there, we probably have a couple agents on here trying to learn something good for you for trying to enhance your career. For any indexed annuity guy out there saying, well, I'd never buy a MYGA, I'd just buy an indexed annuity, he's trying to buy a car. The reality of MYGAs is they typically outperform indexed annuities because indexed annuities only guarantee in most cases that you're not going to lose money. Okay, it's a principal protected product. but the upside is a convoluted index option that nobody but me and Jimmy understand. And I think there's 2 other people in the country, but we really don't know those people. If you bought a MYGA instead of an indexed annuity for just a pure return standpoint, the MYGA is going to beat it most of the time. And that's not me talking, that's Beacon Research talking. So you have to ask yourself, hey Stan, why am I not being shown MYGAs by all these gunslingers out here? It's called commission, people. MYGAs don't pay, all annuity commissions are built into the product, but a MYGA commission, because there's no moving parts and it's a short-term product, is minuscule compared to the 8 to 10 to 12% commissions on indexed annuities. So that's the reason you're seeing indexed annuity gunslingers trying to fit the square peg into the round hole. So, Jimmy, I think it's important right here to talk about interest rates because everyone's trying to time them. Share with the people with your triple decade experience in the markets, interest rates and what we need to be looking at here.
Well, it's one of the most common topics today. In the last 32 years that we've managed money, one of the biggest topics that we've had in the last 5 years is interest rates, and people believing that interest rates are going to go higher in the short term. And now, if you're watching the Fed, the FOMC meeting started today. It concludes tomorrow. I'm sure you're going to hear Janet Yellen come out and talk about the fact that the Fed is going to stay pat at 0.25% on the overnight Fed funds rate, which will leave rates where they are, and they're going to look towards June to hike rates. There's now a 60% chance that I guess it's in Las Vegas, but there's a 60% chance that the markets are believing that Yellen and the 12 dwarfs, which I called the 12 Fed presidents, are going to hike rates sometime in the last 6 months of the year. I still do not believe that's true. That's just my opinion, but I wanted to give you a couple things that came out in the media in the last 5 days, and these are some staggering statistics that even I had to step back and look at. Bank of Japan, which is one of the largest debt nations in the world, their sovereign debt, which is equivalent to our U.S. Treasury, yields on the sovereign debt of Japan fell from 1.3% to 0.3% in the last 4 months. That means that 100
Say that again. Say that again, Jim, please.
The Bank of Japan, because of the way that they're putting money into the stimulus market, fell from 1.3% on a 40-year Treasury bond from the Bank of Japan to 0.3% in the last 4 months. That's a staggering stat of how quickly rates are falling in some of these emerging markets. The ECB, which is the European Central Bank, which is one of the third largest debtor in the world, has rates at minus. In other words, the central bank is lending and taking overnight Fed funds rate at basically at 1/4 of a point, or 25 basis points, or 1/4 of 1%. But there are a lot of banks throughout Europe and part of the European Union that are now paying negative interest rates. $7.8 trillion in the world today is now paying negative yields. That's a staggering fact when there's $45 trillion in sovereign debt in the world today. And out of that $45 trillion, we now have almost 15% of that money is paying a negative yield. So rates are going the opposite direction of what a lot of people believe they're going to go and what a lot of people would like for them to do. So if I'm a person looking at yields today to go higher, I'm not real convinced based on the data that we're seeing that you're going to see that. Doesn't mean that it won't, but it doesn't mean that you want to sit around and wait for rates. For people who were trying to time rates in the last year, rates have actually fallen on the 30-year Treasury in the U.S. They've fallen on the 10-year Treasury. They were at 178 last week. We've rallied up to 193 today into the Fed meeting. But you got a lot of issues on the forefront of interest rates, and that's why I think MYGAs, when you look at these, they definitely aren't. I mean, it's not like it's a barn-burning 3% where you're going to run out and say yee-haw, but it's a guaranteed rate that you can't lose money, and I think that's what you have to be looking for if you're looking at a MYGA-type investment.
Jim, let's run through, just now we're on the screen, let's do a 3, 4, and 5 year ladder. So what we're doing a lot with people is saying, hey, you can buy the 5 or whatever, but how about a 3, 4, and 5 year ladder? What does that mean? That means that three years is the shortest duration that you can get with a MYGA currently, And what you're going to have is 3, 4, and 5-year paper where you're having money coming due at year 3. And what we'll do is when the money comes due, you can take the money in full, or you can transfer it and kick the can down the road from a tax standpoint to another carrier via a 1035 exchange if it's a non-IRA, or if it's within an IRA, you can just do a direct IRA transfer, because you can put this both in IRA and non-IRA. So let's look at the 3-year. The 3-year at 2%. So our 3-year piece of paper is at 2%. You're going to get 2%. We're going to do a 4-year. And a 4-year right now is 2.4%. I know you're not pounding the table going, hey, Martha, look at these rates. Jimmy Carter's not. I think he's alive, but he's building a house somewhere. Those rates aren't coming back. Hit the 5-year. So the 5-year will be 3%. So you could build a short-term, that's to say, you could build a short-term ladder of 3, 4, and 5-year paper, getting 2, 2.4, and 3. Now, are you setting the world on fire? No. But what you are doing is you're protecting your principal. Outside of an IRA and a non-qualified account, you're not paying taxes. The interest is compounding tax deferred. There's no annual fees. And at the end of those terms, you can take the money and run, or you can transfer it to another MYGA and just keep pushing the can down the road. And with a lot of these, as you can see, you can peel off interest depending on the carrier. So there's really not a lot to this. The question is, how's your fixed portfolio, whether it be bonds, CDs, money markets, treasuries, munis, how are they doing? Because in most cases, you can add a MYGA to that portfolio, and it's going to be a solid choice from the standpoint of just getting a guaranteed yield. These are contractual guarantees. I think one of the things you need to focus on is the yield to surrender, which is the second to last column on the right. That's the number, okay? That's the number. If they do happen to change or going to change, you can see going down on this page right here where it says next rate change, it'll tell you next rate change is coming. So, you know, if this is a site that you should visit if you're shopping. You can look for, you know, you can go there. You don't have to sign up for anything. You can just punch in your state, punch in your years that you're looking for. And by the way, the reason that there's a state drop down is annuities are the states oversee annuities. So each state has to approve the sale of the specific annuity you see in that state. So not all states are the same. Jim, go to New York, and this is a great example. Oh, you're doing. Oh, that is very good, Jim. That's unbelievable.
That's 2.5% on average for the latter, by the way. I'm sorry.
All right, go to New York and just show. Florida has a lot of choices, but go to New York. Let's go to New York and let's run just do a 5-year New York piece of paper, and let's see what happens. Where's your mouse? Where'd the mouse go? There it is. Okay, so we're going to go to New York.
That starts with N, right?
That would be an N, yeah. All right, so New York, and then just hit search, and let's see what happens here. Come on, New York. New York doesn't have a 3. This is a great example. You're saying, well, Stan, where did the 3% go? Where did my beloved 3% 5-year piece of paper go? Well, New York has made the decision that they don't want to approve that product, the Midland A+ rated, not 88 on a Convex score product in that state. So it is key for you to pull up your specific state of residence and find out what is approved. And these are approved in the state of New York. You can see on this one, this is interesting, that the American National Life Insurance on the third one down, they're getting ready to change that rate. So May the 1st, if the money's not in there, baby, you're not going to get 2.25, you're going to get 2. So they show you what the rate change is going to be and when it's going to happen. By the way, and this is also a good little example here, some of these companies offer higher rates the first year and then the second year's lower. So if you see on like this American National, first year was 305, second year was 205, but the yield to surrender, which is the yield that you're going to get total, is 2.25. So that's a good example of focusing on the yield to surrender charge instead of all the whistles and bells. So Jim, I'm sure there's zillions of questions rolling in. Let's cover a couple, type them in, and we'll answer them as fast and succinctly as humanly possible.
Are MYGAs covered under state insurance programs for annuities?
The answer is yes, but do not place any weight on that. Let me explain. Every little gunslinger out there is going to say, well, you know, CDs have FDIC and MYGAs have state guarantee fund. First of all, that's a misdemeanor. If they ever say that, you can't. Okay? State guarantee funds are, first of all, have never been tested. They're very good in concept. If you go to the website, N as in Nancy, O, L as in Larry, GHA, NOLGHA, that's the national organization of these guarantee funds. You can pull up what your state, each state has a different guarantee fund. But I tell people, do not buy it for that. Buy it for the claims paying ability of the carrier that's offering it. And I think what we're doing right now with 3, 4, and 5-year durations, I think you're pretty safe with most of these carriers, in my opinion. But yeah, they are covered up to a specific amount. Typically, it's anywhere from, I think California might be 100,000 to Texas might be 300,000. But typically, it's around 250,000 per policy per owner is how they cover that. But please, please, please do not equate this to FDIC. It is not FDIC. F stands for federal, and that means they can tax you for the money. State guarantee funds cannot do that. So just be careful and don't. We lost you, Jim. Where'd we go? I'm looking at Hillary Clinton.
Is she winning?
I don't want to see Hillary. I don't want to see Hillary Clinton. So here's another question. Why are the durations only as short as 3 years? In the past, we had seen rates as or durations as short as 1 year and 2 year, but with the 10-year Treasury where it's at right now, less than 2%, nobody's issuing any paper that's 3 years or shorter. So that's the reason. I think if you see the 10-year Treasury go to 3, 3.5, gosh, I'm dreaming, but let's just say it does, you'll see MYGAs go back to a 2 year at least at that point in time. So any other questions, Jimmy?
Well, there's a lot of comments of me neither as far as seeing Hillary's.
Oh, really? That's great. Well, that was a test, by the way. You got, no, I'm kidding. What's another question?
I was told that that in a MYGA, the surrender charge time can be longer than the maturity date. Can that be true?
That is a very good point. There are some of these, and that's the reason that MYGA.direct and our staff and our technology is bar none. A lot of times these companies will have, say, a 5-year guarantee, and this doesn't happen a lot, but that's a good question. A 5-year guarantee, but it's on a 10-year surrender charge period, and they'll give you a 30-day window to get out penalty-free. That's where you need to deal with a MYGA.direct, where we have such automation and such a good customer service staff that we will be in touch with you 60 days out to make sure that you take advantage of that 30-day window. So yes, sometimes, and depending on that carrier, the surrender charge will be longer than the guarantee, but if they say it's a 5-year for 3%, then you can get out, but there might be specific rules inside of there that you have to follow. It's not as bad as the Republican Party and the delegate count, but it is similar.
Right here where it says SC years, what does that mean?
That's surrender charge years, okay? That's surrender charge years. And that's the good example. So it's a 5-year guarantee piece of paper, but it's a 10-year surrender charge or 7-year surrender charge. This is a great example. So after at 5 years, you can get out, but if you don't hit that window that they give you to cash out without penalty, it will lock in for another 5 years. So again, what sets us apart is just how we handle our clients, the automation. We don't bug you, but when those windows of opportunity, we're going to be in touch with you and let you know and help you facilitate either cashing it out or transferring and not incurring another lock-in if you don't want it, or additional surrender charges. Good question, by the way.
May I see the funds online with the insurance company and watch the growth?
With MYGAs, you're going to, and typically, most of these, and they're all different. I mean, there's no uniformity across the board, but typically they apply that interest one time per year. Most of these companies are trying to drag their way into the 21st century, and they do have online access, but it's not going to be whiz-bang let's see what's happening. You're going to get 3% and that's it. This isn't like tracking a mutual fund or ETF. And if you want to, there's really no need to track it. They will give you access, most of these companies, but it's going to be, on your contract anniversary date. With most of them, they're going to apply the interest, and some actually apply the interest in a different form or fashion. That's what, again, all of these companies are different from the standpoint of the rules internal. And by the way, if you want to see a specimen policy, we can get you that.
How much is Florida Insurance Company if it goes out of business?
If I'm not mistaken, and I'm licensed in all 50 states, so I do not have all 50 states memorized. And .direct, annuities.direct, we're licensed in all 50 states. But I think it currently is $300,000. It's either $250 or $300, but I believe it's $300,000 per policy per owner. So in other words, you could own one for $300,000. Your wife could own one for $300,000.
Can I buy a MYGA outside of the state of residence?
No. No. In the past, there was a really good business from New Yorkers taking a direct flight into Jacksonville, signing the paperwork in the lobby, and then getting back on the plane. No, it has to be state of residence. Now, there are some agents pushing the envelope out there, but that's just not legal. You have to buy the MYGA that is in your state of residence. So no games played, and don't let anybody do that. These are good.
Can you receive the interest monthly?
Some of them do, and it's not many, but some of them do. But it's still going to equate into that number at the far end, right-hand side, yield to surrender. If you're looking to try to find arbitrage or a pricing anomaly with an insurance company, I need you to stop right now. You are not going to find a hole. You're not going to find something that no one else has done. These actuaries, when they do let them out of the closet, they give them a high five, because you're not going to see any type of arbitrage situations as you might with in the stock and bond world. This is pretty straightforward. You're going to get a rate. The yield to surrender is what it is. Whether they calculate it monthly or annually, it's still going to equate into that yield to surrender, period.
If I put in $100,000, is that what earns interest, or is there commission taken out?
That's what earns interest. There is commission paid. Each of these companies are different, and it ranges, by the way, from as low as, say, 25 to 50 basis points to upwards of, say, 2%, depending on the duration, okay? But it's built into the product. You never see it, so when you put 100 in, you'll see 100 go to work for you. All annuity commissions are built in. These are just very, very low commissions. And, it's a one-time commission, and there's no annual fees during the duration of that policy.
What does ROP stand for?
Return of premium. ROP is return of premium.
What do these insurance companies do with the money invested?
Well, they can't be like banks. That's a very good question. People always say, well, Stan, how many annuity companies go out of business, or they all just... Listen, annuity companies, insurance companies are not smarter than banks. They're just more regulated. They are not allowed to go 100 miles an hour and throw a fastball with your money. They have specific investment grade products that they can only invest in. And I know you went out and saw the movie The Big Short, and you're going to send me those emails. I'm just telling you, is what it is. With a bank, you give them your money, they can loan out 94%, keep 6% on hand. By law, annuity companies on a fixed rate annuity, if you give them $100,000, they have to have $100,000 on hand to, just by law. Now, they have access to products, overnight products and short-term interest rate products that Jimmy and I don't, and you don't either, so don't feel sorry for them. They're doing okay. They're making money off the money, believe me.
I need you to get out your crystal ball, because they want to know if there's any better MYGA-style products coming out in the near future.
No. How's that? MYGA style, that sounds like an indexed annuity sale. If someone says they have a MYGA style product, you're getting ready to buy an indexed annuity. And by the way, I'm not down on them. I'm just down on the way they're sold. Indexed annuities are nothing more than a CD product just like this. The difference is MYGAs that you're looking at have a guaranteed interest rate, whereas indexed annuities have all kinds of moving parts and whistles and bells. And if you buy enough of it, the agent gets to go on a trip to Bora Bora and drink for free. So these are just straightforward. I mean, let me rephrase the question. Are there any new type of CD products coming out? No. I mean, the banks try to do that and they don't work. I don't see this changing. MYGAs have been pretty straightforward for decades. The only reason you haven't heard about them is just, unfortunately in our industry, recommendations are driven by commissions, unfortunately. Hopefully this fiduciary law that came down, even though it's not perfect, is going to get some of those gunslingers out of the way. Because at the end of the day, what the fiduciary law said was, hey, show everybody all the products, show them all the information they need to make a good decision, and get the heck out of the way and stop scaring people. That's annuities.direct. Now, Jimmy and I are really, really smart. If you don't believe us, ask us. But we did not design annuities.direct for the Department of Labor. In fact, it could be argued that they put that law out for us because our sites do exactly what they want advisors to do, which is to provide information on your terms and then get the heck out of the way.
I want to add one point to something you brought up there, Stan, on the issue with what banks and are doing, as well as brokerage firms like BlackRock and a lot of these big institutions that are now putting out CD-type products that look like MYGAs that have 5-year guarantees that are attached to indexes. And being that it could be the small cap index, it could be the gold index, it could be any index that they choose to attach it to, but they're offering these 5-year type products and it makes it look like you're going to earn 6, 7, or 8%, when in reality, if you go back and look historically at those products, they don't come anywhere near those yields and they actually underperform MYGA type assets. It's just another way that brokerage firms, banks, and institutions have for gathering assets. They're just trying to add sizzle to something that really, in a lot of ways, I mean, you can put lipstick on the pig, but it's still a pig. And so the bottom line is.
Oh, I've got to give my saying, Jim.
Okay, go ahead.
You can't polish a turd, but you can roll it in glitter. That's these structured products. I mean, seriously, exactly. I had to say that. Everybody out there, I know you're laughing. That's good. But if it sounds too good to be true, it is. I mean, if you can't explain it to a 9-year-old, don't buy it. I mean, it's really that simple. You can explain this to a 9-year-old, I think. Hey, Jimmy, go through. Click one of these and go through the system.
All right, you need to answer this one question here.
Oh, I'd love to.
If you have qualified money, how do you transfer that to a MYGA without triggering the tax?
Good question. What happens is, let's just say that your IRA is with Wells Fargo. Great company, right? And you say, you know what, Stan, I want to buy a Athene annuity MYGA. Well, what you're going to do is in the application process, there's going to be a direct transfer form from the IRA at Wells Fargo to an IRA at Athene. In other words, it's going to go from one institution to another, a non-taxable event. So you'll have an IRA at Athene holding that money. So that's how it works. So that's not going to touch your hands, our hands, or anybody's hands from one company to another. If it's outside of an IRA, you can transfer it via a 1035 exchange. 1035 is the IRS code that approves annuity to annuity exchanges without any taxable event.
And then quickly, just so that people know when running these quotes, MVA, what does that mean?
Market value adjustment. And those are, that's a hard one to explain. I have written a book on this that we give away for free, but in essence, if you surrender the policy before the surrender time period is up. So let's take a 5-year example. If you surrender the policy in year 3, that company, if there's a MVA attached to the policy, and most of them don't, but some of them do, they're going to look at the interest rates at that point in time to see if, to determine the surrender charge in addition to the interest rate and the market value adjustment at that point in time. It could work in your favor. It could work against you. It just depends on where the interest rates are. But if you're going to buy a fixed rate annuity, I'm going to tell you, buy it short enough term, 3, 4, and 5 years, that unless just catastrophe happens, that money's going to be in there for the duration. So, it is what it is. I'm not a big fan of MBAs, but it's just, it's the reason insurance companies have the big buildings, right? But sometimes it works against them, which is fun.
And a follow-up to the ROP is that they notice that when they run the quotes that the rates are less.
Run what quote?
On right here, if you add ROP to it, say yes here.
Oh, that they're built in a lot of cases. They're building in a death benefit that is an additional. They don't really do a charge, but they just lessen the yield on it. There's no need to do an ROP because in a lot of if you die, if whoever your beneficiary is, if you die, they're going to get the accumulated value in total lump sum. Period. It's just that simple.
All right, so you want me to click on one of these companies?
Yeah, just click on one of the companies and just say, hey, I'm gonna dig deeper and go from there.
If you click on the companies, we have it set up where it just goes into, yes, I want to buy a MYGA direct, which means I want to buy it through annuities.direct. It's just going to lead you into a page that has the process to do that. You can walk through that process and do everything direct online with our staff. If you have questions or would like for someone to walk you through and give you the paperwork, walk you through the paperwork and help you through the process, then you can do that as well, where you would just set up a phone appointment online. You just go into the site, you set up the phone appointment with them. So if I have questions, you just click here. You can ask the questions. If you want to talk to someone directly, you go right here, you click on it, and it's going to bring up a calendar where you can schedule a time. If you wanted to speak with Stan directly, you can do that right here as well. And if you want to speak to one of the people who handle the paperwork, you would just go in and handle that here also. So what you're always allowed to do is you can do it all by yourselves online, and if you need help, we're here to help you. We're not here to sell you anything. We're here to help you get through the process of finding something.
Right, and you can schedule a call with me. We can talk this thing through. We can put ladders together for you. In essence, what we're teaching you down the road is just how to fish. In the annuities market, the reason annuities.direct even exists is that we wanted you to have a choice. Yes, you can deal with me if you want to have an agent involved, or you can say, hey, I don't want to have an agent involved. I want to do it myself. I want to buy my stocks on E-Trade. I want to buy my bonds on Schwab, and I want to buy my annuities at annuities.direct. You now have a real choice to do that, and no one's going to steer you to some indexed or variable product that you don't need. We're going to listen to you, and I will tell you if you don't need one. I mean, I have no problem saying you are not the person that needs an annuity, or if it just doesn't fit at this point in time. So you can't fit a square peg into a round hole. And I'm a firm believer in just telling the brutal facts about these products, because annuities are really not investments. They're transfer risk products. With MYGAs, you're transferring the risk to the insurance company to protect the principal and pay you a guaranteed interest rate. That's what you're doing. I mean, that is nothing more, nothing less. This is safe money. I know that phrase is used up a lot by people that are trying to do other things other than MYGAs, but this is a safe investment that you need to keep it short term, and it's just keeping your powder dry for another day. Is there any other questions, Jimmy? Because we're getting close to
yeah, there are. I want to expand on that just a little bit, because
sure.
My OCD investment mind always kicks in that if you take a 30-year Treasury right now as an example, the 30-year Treasury is yielding right at 2.8%, which is still less than a MYGA, but you're taking the duration of the yield curve out to the full 30-year spectrum to get to the 2.8. If you look at a 5-year Treasury today, the 5-year Treasury is still yielding under 1%, and meaning that what insurance companies are doing is they're putting the money to work in their own portfolios by taking the long duration risk of the portfolio so that they can give you the shorter yield cycles because they have the ability to hold the money over the longer term where some people don't. But put in perspective duration risk to bonds, if the Fed were today, which we just talked about, if the Fed were to raise interest rates 50 basis points or 0.5%, the duration on a 10-year Treasury today is at 8.1, meaning that you would lose 8.1% of the value of the bond for every 1% that interest rates move, meaning that if they move rates a half of 1%, you would have potentially lose 4% of the principal value. That's the risk you run in owning bonds in a rising interest rate environment, and it's something that I don't hear people talk much about, but you have to be very, very cautious when you start to compare MYGAs to bonds because they're two different animals with two different risk cycles. MYGAs have no risk, bonds have credit risk, and they also have market risk, but they also have interest rate risk, which was their biggest animal. Last question I had here, Stan, that I think is interesting is that are MYGAs creditor protected?
Depends on what state you live in. And, obviously inside of an IRA, IRAs have that type of protection, but most states do not have creditor and predator protection for annuities. And, MYGAs is just one type of many annuities. There's SPIAs, DIAs, MYGAs, QLACs, variables, index, whatever. But like, for instance, the state of Texas, the state of Florida have very strong creditor protection rules. However, let's be very upfront. You can't get sued tomorrow and then buy a MYGA and be safe. Okay, they have to be in place. There is a clawback rule, but yeah, if someone targets your brand new Mercedes and says they're going to run into you and you own a bunch of MYGAs, they can't get to them. Now, the application to that is we have a lot of clients that are, high net entrepreneurs, surgeons, people that are in highly litigious industries, and they buy MYGAs and just put the money there knowing that it's not only safe and principal protected and growing tax deferred with a guaranteed rate, but if some idiot tries to sue them, they can't get to it. So in those states, so you can check, you can contact me and I can tell you the states, but Texas and Florida have the toughest, and that's the reason everybody moves to Texas and Florida, by the way, in a lot of cases, is that they can protect their assets that way. The greatest example, unfortunately or fortunately, is OJ had annuities while he was a resident of Florida, and the Goldman family could not get to them. The law is the law. So Texas and Florida, and there are a couple other handful of states, but most do not have creditor protection. It has nothing to do with the annuity. It has to do with the state law addressing annuities in general.
All right. There's a lot of other questions, but I think we're bumping against the
We're bumping.
But right. I would like to just cover a couple of housekeeping issues. The first being that the web URL is annuities.direct, not .com. It's not annuitiesdirect.com. It's annuities.direct. So when you type it in, it's just like typing annuities.com, but you're going to type .direct after the name annuities. And just so you understand that is there. All the websites are that way. MYGA.direct, QLAC.direct, they all have the .direct URL, meaning that you can buy these direct. And as Stan says, that he was the person who was fully responsible for this being done.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a new domain name. I mean, domain names are .com, .net, etc. .direct is the newest one. It will be the defining domain name in about a year. All of you out here on this call are on the cutting edge, so consider yourself fortunate. So annuities.direct. If you want to contact us. Stan the Annuity Man. You can go through the site and catch me. You can, if you have any questions, feel free to walk us through. I know this is new for a lot of you, that you can now look at annuities on your own and make your own decision, but we're here to help. So with that, thank you for joining us. Go watch the election results and grab a beer because it's going to be fun.
Thank you.